Chapter 5. My body refused to move. If it could, I'd be running, or cowering in the corner and crying like a baby. Instead, I stood dumbstruck. The noose swayed almost imperceptibly from side to side, rocking the woman, squeezing off her air. I wasn't even sure ghosts needed air. Her mouth formed an O, and she let out a hoarse, wet moan. She had been strung up, tied to the ceiling, strangled for eternity. Poor girl. When it came right down to it, Josephine's story wasn't all that different from my own. Jerky guy, public embarrassment, the whole town looking down on her. But it didn't have to end so terribly. Maybe she didn't have a friend like Laura Lee, or a sister who loved her. Her mouth opened and closed like a caught fish. She was haunted and tortured, and had been left that way. In a terrifying moment of total clarity, I had to ask. I had to know the truth, not just the legend that didn't tell her side of the story. What happened to you? Her eyes locked onto mine. My pity fled as her stare bored into me hard. She took a deep, sucking breath and screamed. I took one step back, then another. I didn't know where to go or how to get out of there, but she told me to get out, and I meant to do it. I was just going to need a little help since she locked the door behind me. I let out a loud hiccup. I'm not trying to hurt you or invade your house, or keep you from throwing anything you want out your window. Damn. I probably shouldn't have mentioned that. Just that I'm in a bit of trouble, and the ghost hair unwound from the braid. The shadows in her face drew deeper. I watched stunned, while her hair freed itself and spread out behind her as if she carried on an unseen gale wind. My voice left me with a final squeak as she drew the noose off of her neck. She drifted straight for me, her eyes cold, her face menacing. I was sorry this happened to her. I was sorry I intruded. I cringed, holding up my hands to shield my head. I willed myself to open my mouth to speak without screaming. Maybe if I explained what I was doing there, she'd understand. Maybe she'd let me go. The words came out in a rush of desperation. I'm only here because my ex-fiancé screwed me over. She stopped her approach and hissed out a sharp breath. It sounded scratchy, weak. She hadn't spoken in a long time. Men, she said, her voice cracking. The ghost tilted her head to the side. I swallowed hard. She'd just given me an opening, maybe. I couldn't believe I was explaining this to a ghost. He cheated on me, and he assaulted my sister. It made me angry just to think about it. Then he turned the whole town against me when I called off the wedding. She stared at me, my heart pounded, and I'd probably said too much, but it was the truth, all of it. She drew her hair over her shoulders, watching me all the while. My former love also had trouble with the truth. I tried a conspiratorial laugh, but it came out as more of a whimper. My power of speech, which was my only true gift on this earth, had completely abandoned me. She began to braid her streaming black hair. I know what they call me. I hear them say it. She flinched as if struck, jilted Josephine. I cleared my throat. She might have heard me say it when I first walked into this place. Guilt gnawed at me. I've heard it bandied about, I said weakly. Jonathan said he wanted to marry me. She snorted, and her watery black and white image grew stronger. She glanced at the window overlooking the front yard, but then it happened. Her mouth stiffened, and I could see a red haze form around her. I had a feeling we were headed into dangerous territory, and I didn't want to test my luck. It was freaky enough to be standing here, talking to her. But at least she wasn't attacking me. She wasn't threatening me. She was simply another girl with a crappy ex. I shook my head. Men can really do a number on us, can't they? As long as we were telling stories. When I told Beau I wouldn't marry him after what he'd done, he refused to listen. He said the wedding was going forward whether I wanted it to or not. I still remember his smug words. Her eyes widened. He forced you to the altar. No, I didn't show up. I couldn't believe I was having this conversation. Once he realized I was standing by my word, he painted me around town as a flaky gold digger who realized too late that his parents controlled the money. I crossed my arms over my chest. Her image swirled in an unseen wind, listening and playing out behind her as she clenched her jaw. My fiancé left town without telling me he married his cousin. He said it just happened. It just happened to get married. She held out her hands and his silver locket shimmered into view. She gripped it hard, turned it over in her hands. Of course, his cousin had a bigger dowry. Her white gown streamed around her as she rushed to the window. Hurled the silver necklace straight through the broken panes. I heard the glass shatter anyway, and listened as broke shards clattered onto the ground below. If I was a better shot, I'd have hit him in the head with it. I'd have helped you practice your aim, I told her. Her expression softened, and she appeared almost vulnerable. I really loved him. Her gaze focused on the rough floorboards. Even to compromise my virtue, I couldn't marry anyone else. She raised her head to watch out the window when I saw a faint silver light gleam amidst the woods and the overgrowth. Then he arrived at my home, thinking to apologize when he had her in his carriage. She turned to me, so I guess I got my hope chest out the window as well, along with the chest itself. I hope it landed on him, I said. She smiled, and when she did, she was truly lovely. I would have liked that very much. I smiled back, and the ghost gave a small shrug. Maybe we can start over, I suggested. My name is Verity. I'm from Sugarland as well. She tilted her head and watched me closely. Most of the time, people can't see me, she said slowly. Oh, I miss those days. That time, an hour or two ago, when I would have classified this stuff as the stuff of nightmares. But no, I had explicitly requested to be open to this and to everything else that was happening in this gosh-forsaken house. Let me see. I should have run from this place and never looked back. I don't like when people come into my house, she said grudgingly. They come and they gawk, and I hear what they say about me. It's never kind. She had a point. I don't know why the gossips enjoy other people's pain. I don't think most people don't do it on purpose. If you haven't been on the receiving end, it's hard to understand. I certainly had it. It's still what happened to me. Why do you stay here if it bothers you so much? My mother, she said simply, she told me Jonathan was a bad choice. She wanted me to marry the man my father picked out for me. I refused and thought I would prove them wrong. Then it happened. She let her auntie gaze toward me. She sent me to my room to think about what I did. For 100 years. She nodded. It's very lonely. I should think so. I almost offered to come back and visit. But this ghost thing was a one-time thing. I didn't want to make a promise I couldn't keep. Josephine shrugged. I'd like to leave, but I'm afraid of what might happen. Mother has a temper. She went poltergeist once and tore off the chimney. Wait, poltergeist? I didn't understand what she meant. The only thing I knew about poltergeist was not to push your hands on the TV around one, especially if you were a little blonde girl. She kept her ass on the door behind me. In the silence, I could hear a faint scuffle downstairs. Hope it doesn't happen tonight. Your friend provokes her. She don't like intruders. They make her feel unsafe. I drew in a breath. What's going on down there? Josephine gave a small smile and tamped down a giggle. She is scaring me with my dog. I almost feel sorry for that insufferable man. She's scaring him with my dog. If she did, she was a better woman than I am. Still, he was my one connection to the other side. I need to give Frankie a break. She might call on your dog back. She pressed her lips together and whistled, "Here, Fritz." I heard the clicking of dog claws in her hardwood as the hound trotted straight through the lockwood door. So wagging. Josephine reached down and stroked his head. Fritzy has made my confinement bearable. He loves me. He ate up the attention and appeared like a totally different animal than the one I'd met upstairs. Do you wish to pet him? She asked. He's quite friendly once he has been introduced. Fritz lolled his head and gave me a serious hit of adorable dog syndrome. No, that's okay. His service and his charm. His body would be cold and wet. And I don't want to make my skunk jealous. Josephine raised an eyebrow to mention my skunk, but she nodded as if she understood. All animals want to do is love us, she said, stroking Fritz's knobby head. He has been more protective lately, ever since the last time a living person came up here. She winced at the memory. A strange man barged into my room. He ripped up my floor right there, she said, pointing to the spot right underneath where she don't. He didn't even care that I was here. I stiffened. Did he leave anything? She shook her head, her thoughts far away. I'm not sure what you mean. My stomach tingled. I came here because a man hid money on your property a long time ago. I need to stay in my house. Her mouth formed a hard line. I don't know what I'd do if I lost my house. It is a terrible feeling, I told her. She gave a short nod as Fritz nosed her, trying to get her attention back. If the money is there, you can have it. The southern manners in me screamed to ask her if she was sure, but I knew better than that. Thank you, I said quickly. Before I lost my nerve, I stepped around the ghost and knelt down over the place where that poor girl had died. I held my flashlight between my teeth, aiming it at the floor, and ran my fingers over the rough wood planks. None of them were the same length. I traced the length of each of them, searching for a break that would indicate a hideaway of some sort underneath. The beam of my flashlight shook, its light flickering over the old hardwood. There were 4 round marks where the legs of the chair had rested. My skin prickled as I touched one of the marks. I glanced up at Josephine as my finger found purchase next to it, under a knothole that had long since rotted out. She was staring at the door, focused on whatever was going on downstairs. I thought I heard Frankie up. One problem at a time. The boy groaned as I lifted it away from the others, and I shone the flashlight inside. A tangle of small white bones greeted me. Oh my Lord! I reached in and knocked them away. A long wood box lay underneath, with an oak tree carved into the lid. I let out a joyful, disbelieving snort. This is it. I reached down, my fingers closing over the prize, just as I felt a cold whoosh of air rush into the room. And Josephine let out a gasp. Mom, no! A wall of energy slammed down onto me, stunning me. My ears tingled, my legs felt weak. I looked up and saw the disembodied face of a woman with dark red eyes and a vicious, angry sneer. She swooped down on me. I grabbed the box and rolled to the side, looking for anywhere to run. Stop it, Mom! Josephine stood between the specter and me. The older woman's hair was pulled in a severe bun. Her nostrils flared, and she vibrated with malice. What did I tell you about letting people in? The door of the room flew open. Frankie stood on the other side, hat gone, suit rumpled. You get it? Yes. Eyeing the box in my hand. Let's go. I found my feet and dashed past all 3 ghosts straight out into the hall. Fritz barked like crazy, his nails scrabbling against the hardwood. But someone, most likely Josephine, held him back. It was lovely to meet you, she called. Please do come again sometime. She is a crazy woman, Frankie hollered out in my heels. She's getting us out of here, I countered. I clutched the box to my chest and about fell over, making the corner around the landing without touching the banister. Frankie zipped ahead of me, not Josephine, the other one. I thundered down the stairs like the wood under my feet could open up and swallow me in a second. For all I knew it could. I jumped the last 3 stairs and hurtled past the ghostly table and chairs. The only thing I cared about was the exit straight ahead. I swore if I made it, I'd never do this again. I was done with Frankie and his money schemes and ghosts and all of it. My fingers closed around the knob. It was ice cold. I twisted it hard, threw the door open, and ran straight into the blessed freedom outside. A shotgun blast ripped through the side of the house next to me, peppering my back with shards of wood. Holy... Stop! I screamed, holding out a hand as I gripped the box under my other arm. Darkness surrounded me. I'd suddenly gone from the glow of the ghostly visions to pitch black. My eyes needed to adjust. I couldn't see. "Run!" Frankie screamed, dissolving into thin air. I crouched and started back for the house, even as I felt the anger and the energy of Josephine's crazy mother radiating down to my very core. The second shotgun blast tore into the ground in front of me, setting up a spray of plants and dirt. Sweet heaven, I dropped the cash box, kept going. Rumples echoed from inside the house. A dog barked like mad. A cold wall of air rose up, whipping my hair into my eyes, stinging my cheeks, and driving me back. "I mean you no harm," I screamed at my attacker. At the ghosts of anyone who would listen. A sharp double click echoed in my ears as my assailant cocked a gun. "Stay the hell off my property." Chapter 6. I froze. I knew that voice. It was cracklier than it had been, sharpened with age. But I had no doubt who it was. Maisie Hatcher. Heart pounding. Half out of my chest. I stopped with my back to her and straightened. Making sure to be slow, painfully restrained. I raised my arms up and away from my body. I didn't dare turn or speak. No, not yet. In the moonlight, I could see the spray of small bullet holes torn into the wood next to the door. I gulped. That could have been me. "Where are the rest?" she demanded. "I want to see every damn one of you hooligans." My mouth and throat were dry as the Sahara, while the rest of me sweated buckets. I was reluctant to speak, afraid of what might set her off. But I knew I had to say something. It was my only chance to calm her down. "It's just me, Mrs. Hatcher, Verity," I began, voice shaking despite my efforts to sound soothing. "I'd like to turn around now." "Trespassing delinquents," she mumbled under her breath. "Let's see your face." I turned. Mrs. Maisie Hatcher stalked toward me, her legs bent and wide. She held fire in her eyes and a shotgun aimed straight at my chest. A shabby tan bathrobe covered her high-neck blue nightgown. She'd aged 20 years in the 10th since I'd last seen her. Her eyes briefly widened when she saw me, and I took that as a victory. "You," she snarled, taking fresh aim. "Aren't you a little old for this malarkey?" Definitely not the greeting I'd been hoping for. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hatcher," I said, the words running together. Without conscious thought, I found myself reverting to the tone I'd used when I spilled tea on her skirt during one of my grandmother's church group get-togethers. I had needed something badly, and I didn't want to bother you. Her eyes narrowed. "What do I have that you won't?" Okay, yes. This was bound to be an uncomfortable situation. I racked my brain for a way to tell her that I'd come onto her property in order to find the cash she'd desperately sought all these years. Sure, I'd been rather enthusiastic about dashing out of the house with it, but I really had planned to give it to her. It sounded suspicious even to me. "Well," she demanded, adjusting her aim. Maybe she's just shocked, scared like I was. She'd been sleeping very hard, and if there, sticking straight out from her head in clumps, was any indication. Last time I'd seen Maisie, her tresses were thin, teased straight up, and stained an unnaturally orange auburn that could only come from a bottle. It didn't quite work, but I had to give her credit for making an effort. I knew I must feel guilty. I felt guilty. And every moment I stood tongue-tied in front of Mrs. Hatcher, no doubt made me look even worse. Only there were no plausible explanations for my presence on her property at this hour of the night. So I set my goal lower. Maybe, just maybe, I could get her to stop aiming her shotgun at my chest. It was a start. Mrs. Hatcher, right when I thought the entire distorted, unbelievable, damaged story would come spilling out of me, I caught the glint of something out of the corner of my eye and found inspiration. Josephine's locket. It lay in the grass a few feet to my right, directly under the ghost's favorite window. I took a deep breath. "I came here once in a dare," I said, the words spilling out of me as if they were true. When I was a teenager, a young, dumb kid. I stressed that last part, ignoring the widow's huff of agreement. "I came here with some friends. While I was here, I lost my grandmother's locket." She wasn't impressed. I always get kids sniffing around my haunted property. She frowned. This is private property. It ain't for kids. And no, I said, raising my arms higher, even though they were starting to ache. It was time for the truth. At least the part that didn't involve a ghost named Frankie. I cleared my throat. I'm not sure if you've heard, but I had some money troubles. She snorted. We all have. Indeed. I've had to sell most everything my grandmother gave to me. I swallowed hard. Maisie watched me carefully. At least I had her attention now. That locket, I said, noticing with my eyes lying right over there. It's the last thing I have left of her. I shook my head. I knew coming here was dumb and wrong and rude, I added, but I was only trying to get it back. She hesitated, relaxing her stance a fraction. Then why were you inside? She asked, tipping her gun toward the door of the house. I slowly began bringing my hands down, relieved when she let me. I left it in the upstairs bedroom. A sharp, chilling breeze whipped up her hair and chilled me to the bone. Goosebumps raced down my sweat-slick skin. I never went up there, she said, her eyes darting to the side as she thought. Of course, I've only been inside once. She had me carefully. Once was enough. She lowered her gun all the way. At least we're having a conversation now, not a standoff. I'm sorry, I said quite honestly. I shouldn't have come so late at night. But my house goes on sale tomorrow. I panicked. Had to find it, huh? She asked, glancing at the upper bedroom window. She patted her hair down, or at least she tried. I knew your grandmother pretty well back in the day. We went to school together. I hadn't realized, but it made sense. We only had one elementary. I remember you from her ladies' parties. The corners of her mouth turned up, and she coughed a little. Now those were some pleasant afternoons. Your grandmother was a real nice lady. I know, I said simply, thank you. I eased over toward the locket in the grass, and when Macy didn't stop me, I reached down for it. Until that moment, I hadn't stopped to consider whether I could still touch a ghostly object. I hesitated for a split second before my fingers closed around the chilly metal. I'd take good care of it, I vowed, as I slipped it into my pocket. When the widow's brows furrowed, I realized what I'd done. The chain is broken, I explained quickly. I didn't feel right about wearing Josephine's necklace. I polished it up and returned it to her later. Maisie paused. I didn't see it until you had it there in your hand. She rubbed a hand down the side of her face. I must be more tired than I thought. It is late, I agreed. We were both a little stressed. I should have realized she wouldn't be able to see the ghostly object. And then I touched it and brought it into her reality. Amazing. I glanced up to Josephine's window. The ghost stood over us watching. She caught my eye and gave me a small wave. The widow clucked. I don't know why anyone in their right mind would set foot in that house. It's not all bad, I said, surreptitiously returning Josephine's wave. I shivered as the necklace in my pocket went cold. I slipped my fingers over it and felt it melt away into nothing. I shivered as the necklace in my pocket went cold. I slipped my fingers over it and felt it melt away into nothing. Okay, so maybe I wouldn't need to go back. Maisie frowned. That place is more haunted than the Queen Mary. If there's a spirit lingering here, she's probably a little lonely. I glanced back at the house. The ghost still stood in the window. I was no expert on the paranormal, but have you tried saying hi? I mean, who wouldn't want to be acknowledged? Josephine had lived a hard life, a tragic one. And her afterlife was no picnic either. It must be the worst feeling in the world to be feared, maligned, alone. Maisie had to think about that one. She gestured toward the house with the rolling motion of her wrist. You think I should say hi to Josephine? Like she's a person or something? I'd call her by her Christian name only, for starters, I suggested, but yes. When you walk your property every day, she interjected proudly. Why was I not surprised? Every day, I repeated, wave and greet her like you would any neighbor. I paused, thinking of the stark isolation of that girl inside. I'll bet things in that house might even calm down a bit, if you do. She let out a small huff. Then, to my surprise, Mrs. Hatcher raised her hand, the one that wasn't holding the gun at her side, and gave a small gesture of greeting. Well, hello there, neighbor. She blew out her breath. Not that I want her returning the favor and come by my place of greetings, but I know what it's like to crave a visitor from time to time. Oh, man. I didn't doubt it. Macy didn't have a lot of people she could count on. There weren't many of her generation left. And with that, I was reminded of my true reason for being there. I have to tell you something, I said, retreating to search for the box I dropped. It lay on its side, in a tangle of grass, half bathed in moonlight. My hemp bag with Frankie's urn lay nearby. I shouldered the bag and then picked up the box. Hope flared in my chest. I'd done it. I'd solved it. Hi. Both our money problems. I found this with my locket, I said, carrying it back to her, eager to see what it held. I think it might be what you've been looking for. She gasped when she saw the wooden box with the oak tree emblem. She placed the gun on the ground. Shaking, she took the box from me with both hands. Feels like I've been looking for this half my life. She glanced up at me, wary, before her excitement got the better of her, and she unlatched the metal clasp. When she lifted the lid, bundles and bundles of $20 bills, neatly paper clipped together. My heart lifted. She simply stared, her eyes welling with tears. I grinned like mad. You, she stammered, unable to find the words. She shook her head as she struggled to compose herself. Grandma told me stories of how your husband left money for you. He treated her poorly, but that was over now. Shouldn't have to struggle so hard, not at her age. It seemed as if she had plenty extra. This should be more than you need, right? A single tear fell, bypassing her cheek and falling into the box. Thank you, she said, suddenly quite proper. And for a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of the woman she'd been 20 years ago. You deserve it. There was a woman who lived on her own, walked a property, and stood up for herself. She might not welcome all that many visitors, but she'd more than earned a helping hand. I was glad to be the person to give it. A gold spot materialized to my right. I didn't see Frankie, but I could certainly hear him. I opened my mouth, closed it exactly. What does one say to persuade an old woman to part with the chunk of her long-awaited inheritance? That's a lot to spend, I said, in the words leading ever. Frankie groaned. Be kind, I muttered. Truly, I could speak plainly with the best of them, but not about money in the middle of the night with an old woman who stood crying in front of me. She wiped her nose on the sleeve of her robe. You don't know what this means, she said, bringing back grateful tears. Here, Frankie said, you just take it, like this. I watched the bills ripple under Maisie's fingers. Well, not like that, but you get the picture. I took Maisie by the shoulder and steered her away from the sticky finger ghost. Don't you be eyeing me. Frankie chilled the air at my back. She's holding at least 40 G's in the box. She won't miss half of that. Maisie, I began, I don't know if you have plans for that money, but she clutched the box to her chest. I can pay my medical bills now. I was going to lose the house, the farm. This still might not be enough, but it's a lot. It'll go far, don't you think? My heart grew heavy. Yes, she needed it just about as much as I did, and it was ours. Glad I could help, I said, fighting back the lump in my throat. Did my hearing go out, or did you just let that name off the hook? Frankie's voice was incredulous. I waved him off. I made her happier, and I think I'd also help Josephine. It would have to be enough, I decided as I reached into my pocket for my car keys. Maisie was a woman alone. She and I both were. I'll come by and visit you, I added. This time in daylight. I bring cookies when I can afford all the ingredients. If I recall, it's your favorite oatmeal crunch. The urn bumped against my hip. You're just going to give up on our house. My house. It meant more to me than he could ever imagine, but there were some lines I couldn't cross. This isn't right, I said under my breath. What's not right, dear? Maisie asked. I didn't realize she could hear so well. I turned back to her. I'm losing Grandma's house. It hurt to even say it. I wanted to ask you for a loan, but you need the money as much as I do. Maisie said, I love that old house. It used to be the heart of Sugarland when your grandmother was alive. I nodded. Our family has so much history there, but after what happened with Bo and me, nobody in town will lend me the money to save it, and I don't have a fortune buried in the backyard. She thought for a moment. How much do you need? $20,000, I told her solemnly. She let out a surprised cluck of sympathy. I can't give you that much. I understood more than she realized. $3,000 would cover lawyer fees to put off the judgment for another month, if you could spare that much of a loan. Of course, I'd still have to figure out another way to earn $20,000. I doubted Frankie had another box of money up his sleeve. Maisie Hatcher fingered the lid, not saying a word. And then she nodded hard, tears spilling down her cheek. Oh, sweetie, I can lend you that. I'd be happy to. I couldn't believe it. Thank you, I squealed, hugging her before either one of us could think about it too much. I'll pay it back as soon as I can. She pulled back flustered. I'm sure you will. I get a job, one that paid a lot better than having an art degree in a small town afforded. I'd work day and night if I had to. I'd even move away to Chicago if it meant I had a chance to make this all right. She opened the box crack and carefully removed $3,000. Thank you, I whispered as she gave it to me. I was about to breathe the biggest sigh of relief ever when the police lights flashed. I about jumped out of my skin when the siren blipped. Headlights turned on as bright as day. And I realized Maisie was as frozen as I was, pressing a wad of cash into my hands. Surely that wasn't illegal. Although there was the issue of me breaking and entering. I hope she'd registered the firearm she'd been discharging. Stay where you are, the officer ordered, exiting his car. I knew that voice, and I ignored it long enough to stuff the $3,000 into the pocket of my sundress. Right now, the officer was a tall, looming shadow surrounded by lights, but as he drew closer, I grew a bit dizzy. Ellis Graham Waddell strode up wearing the badge of the Sugarland Sheriff's Office. He was the bold one, the black sheep, not to mention my ex-fiance's brother, and he was the very last person I wanted to see.